What's up, family? Welcome back to the channel. So glad to have you back with us for another conversation, another daily dose of conversation. And as per usual, I think this one is going to be a pretty good one. This is a profound subject. Today, we're talking about humanism. Of course, it's not the first time that we've talked about humanism. It's kind of a theme over here. Typically, we're going to be talking about atheism, humanism, and community. Those are kind of the things that we're all about. So we're going to be diving into this and really just kind of wrestling with what's the humanist approach to life's big questions, and when we think about the big questions, it's really like one big one that most people kind of default to, and that is, what is the meaning of life? In our Sunday sessions conversations, we've broached the subject a few times, and I'm of the persuasion that the meaning of life is whatever you make it, that we are the meaning makers. And that really comes from that humanist worldview. And so today we're going to dive into that a little deeper. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion here, and I'm going to share some things that are on my mind. And I'd love to see what your thoughts are in the comments as well. But before we jump into this, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this channel, community, or content in any way that makes sense for you. And share this video with somebody who you think might get some value from it. And of course, check out our merch because it's dope. Like, I'm telling you, it's dope as fuck. Check it out. And also check out our books. We have Black Nonbeliever Next Door, Christ Held Up, Memphis, the Last Supper, Words of a Shattered Mind, and Insignificant, also known as Significant. Check them out. All right, so I get this question a lot, and yesterday I actually had a really fascinating conversation with a newer friend of mine that I've met while working on this documentary. By the way, January 19th, I'm going to be bringing my fellow cast members from the Heathens documentary to do a live show. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, we're going to be in Raleigh in April. If you're in Raleigh and you want to help, please let us know. I've got a few people who let me know so far. Let's get as many as we can get because we want to make this thing amazing. But a question I often get, is Bridge City, because that's the community that we're building. Bridge City, people ask, is that an atheist organization? Is Bridge City an atheist community? And that answer is yes and no, right? Yes, in the sense that as a community, Bridge City has no gods. So yes, in that sense, but in the sense of, is Bridge City a community that's only for atheists? Is Bridge City a community that's just for atheists? That would be no. The driving worldview behind Bridge City is not atheism. It's humanism. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's very important to kind of platform these conversations. And that was actually a conversation I was getting to have yesterday, which was very good. Now, you all know that I lean into the atheist aesthetic for very, in my opinion, very strategic purposes. I lean into the atheist aesthetic because the word atheism has such stigma attached to it. It has such a bad representation, that many people who are atheists feel uncomfortable identifying as such. So I lean into it as almost as a provocative sense to start challenging that antiquated view of atheism as a brand, if you will. So I definitely lean into that. But the driving worldview, the driving perspective behind my content isn't atheistic, it's humanistic, As a matter of fact, it's really my humanism that led me to atheism. Oh man, I ain't never thought about it like that, but that's pretty much how that rocks. It was my concern for people. Like, literally, one of my final prayers to God was that I will never, ever, ever put a God over people again. Ever. That's humanism. You know what I'm saying? This drive to want to build community, this drive to want to focus on personal growth and community development, this drive to want to be progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming, this drive to build community beyond superstition, that's not coming from my atheism, that's coming from my humanism, So we're going to talk about it. I hope I piqued your interest a little bit. That was one hell of an intro, right? So let's go. So let me actually get my mouse on this side of the screen. So, as I said, we're going to be diving into humanism, what it is, why it matters, and how it can help us find meaning without relying on without relying on the supernatural. If you've ever felt curious about a philosophy that focuses on reason, ethics, and compassion, you're in the right place. Let's jump right into it. So first off, let's clarify what humanism actually means. At its core, humanism is a philosophy that emphasizes human reason, ethics, and compassion. Rather than looking to a higher power for guidance, humanists believe we can use our own abilities, our critical thinking skills, our empathy, and our collective experience to shape a meaningful and a better world. Um, and honestly, every time I hear the word higher power, I get triggered and just want to respond. So I got to say this, and I think I've said it on a few of my videos before. Higher power serves the same, like, oh man, it serves the same purpose, same utility as saying God or spirit. When people say, "Oh, I know there must be a higher power," you'd have to be able to define what it is before you could be sure that it must exist. You know what I'm saying? So when people say higher power, I'm like, okay, when you say, what does this mean higher? You get what I'm saying? Like a higher power. You're still pulling on antiquated language. We already know gods don't live in the sky. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're still pulling on that same antiquated thought, and so it's still just a question mark. So when people say, "Oh, I just believe there's a higher power," what they're really saying is, "I just believe there's something, and I don't know what the fuck it is, and I don't know what to call it. So I'm just going to say higher power," which ultimately means I don't know shit about what I'm saying, so that belief has no utility. You know, it has no utility. So just the idea of a higher power, like, what do you mean? I mean, the sun is a higher power. Is that what you mean? But see, like, we've gotten so used to being lazy with our language. And that's really my biggest charge against most religious people. In order to still be religious, to still be religiously superstitious, you absolutely have to be mentally lethargic. You have to be lazy. You actually have to be apathetic, indifferent to the things that you claim to care about. Because if you are actually in pursuit of the truth, if you are actually in pursuit of an understanding, if you were actually in pursuit of knowing this God to be true, then you do everything in your power to know this God and would come to the same conclusion that the rest of us have. You know. See, the only genuine Christians are now atheists. Boom. Psh. All right. So yeah, the higher power thing. Let me cut this down. The higher power thing is it's like it's a thing for me. I, what does it mean? You know, higher. What are you talking about? Superpowers? Because and that's the reason why I take it there. Because if you force the person to start attaching some type of definite description to it, they'll begin to realize how stupid it sounds. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no, no. I don't get it. Are we a higher power than the other chimpanzees? Than the other apes? Are we a higher power than other animals? You are taking a human construct and trying to impose it on the universe. I know everybody has to have a boss. Like, what the fuck? Get on somewhere with that, man. I'm just saying. That's one of my rabbit trails. But anyway, so humanism doesn't rely on supernatural beliefs or superstitions. It views the world through a naturalistic lens, which means it looks at evidence, science, and rational discourse to understand reality. You know, Historically, this mindset dates all the way back to ancient cultures, where thinkers questioned the gods and sought rational explanations for the world around them. Over time, humanism has evolved through the Renaissance, focusing on individual potential, the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason, and into our modern era, where humanism continues to adapt to new scientific discoveries and social changes. You know, so let's kind of talk through a few key principles of humanism just to kind of get a better understanding of it. Um, one, and this one I talk about a lot, um, because it bothers me sometimes, which I knew it. I knew it. It was superstitious for me to think anything otherwise. But I'm always amazed at how many people who are part of the secular community who really don't know how to use reason and critical thinking. Now, I say I'm amazed, but I knew that coming in, like, because those are the numbers. The numbers, the math is the math. Um, we can, to a certain degree, of comfort, we can kind of predict how things are going to be based off of basic statistics. And so, yeah, 9 times out of 10, most people are not actually using reason and critical thinking, not even knowing it. And again, if you saw my previous video where I talk about my weight loss journey, that was one of the things for me. Like I didn't realize that I wasn't using critical thinking when I was eating. I wasn't using reason. I wasn't eating with reason. I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I was just eating because there was food there. Just eating because it tastes good. You know what I'm saying? And got to eat it all. Got to eat everything. My plate got to be covered. I don't want to see no part of the plate. Food needs to be everywhere. I don't need to see the plate. I need to only see food. The plate needs to be a mystery. It needs to be a puzzle that I'm solving as I'm eating off the plate. This is how it was, you know. But then my journey into atheism and humanism was ultimately this thing about, okay, I want to live my life within reason. I want to have reason for why I do things. I want to engage my life critically. So humanists hold that we should approach the world with curiosity and skepticism and testing ideas against evidence and being willing to change our minds if new information emerges. Hence, one of our values that we call the Bridge City difference, the very first one is we are progressive thinking, which means we are always open to change our minds based off of new information. But not only is humanism rooted in reason and critical thinking, it is also rooted in empathy and compassion, you know? So for humanists, ethics flow from our shared humanity. We care about others because we recognize their capacity for suffering, for joy, and fulfillment, just like our own. So the second aspect, the second Bridge City difference about our community is not only are we progressive thinking, but we are also people centric. So for us, again, ethics do not flow from God who sits on high. Ethics for us do not flow from anybody's predefined or prescribed book. Like, even if I was to write a book as the founder of Bridge City, it should never, ever, ever be the basis of ethics. We should not pull our ethics from things that do not have agency. As a humanist, as humanists, our ethics comes from our shared humanity, our shared experience, you know? And then also, one of the key principles of humanism is individual autonomy and personal responsibility. Humanism values personal freedom, but also reminds us that with freedom comes responsibility. We should strive to act ethically and help create a just society. So, and I didn't even plan this like this, but that worked out perfectly. So, reason and critical thinking, progressive thinking, empathy and compassion, people centric. Does anybody know what the third Bridge City difference is? Life affirming, which means we respect people's individual autonomy. I get to talk about this so much now, especially because of the work that we do. But on Sundays, when I was a Christian pastor, if you were a member of my church and you weren't there on Sunday, I was deeply concerned. You know what I'm saying? Deeply concerned. You know. And then I realized, now I'm amazed. I'm like, that is so weird. That is so weird because we present the church as a hospital, you know, but then we get upset when people don't feel sick and have to come to the hospital. You should be happy that they're not having to show up to the hospital. That means they're doing well. If they're here, that means they're sick because this is the hospital. Mm-mm. Oh man. Yikes. Just walked up into that one. You know, if you're still involved with this, you're likely sick. Hmm. That's good. That's good stuff. But no, life affirming in the sense that, no, you have a life. Live that shit. You don't have to be here every day. You don't have to be here every time I'm here. No. And thankfully, we live in a YouTube generation, so you can catch the replay. You don't got it. Why catch it now when you can catch it later? I'm not mad at it. Either way, I get ad revenue, so it works for me. Hallelujah. Blessed be. Praise his name. Reason be the season. Whatever. So yeah, life affirming, which means like as a community, we don't exist to put an extra burden on people. As a community, we don't exist to lock people into something. As a community, we exist for people, not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? And so when people need us, they can come. When they don't have to. When they're not feeling it, they don't have to. They got something else going on, go do that. That's the beauty. And that's one of the things I'm trying to get the secular community to understand. Because I think many people in the secular community are afraid of building community because they're like, but what if it becomes like church? Well, if it becomes like church, it's because you did that shit. So don't. It's really easy. Like, damn. You know, like, I don't understand sometimes. Like, I really feel like I'm talking to people who still should be watching Barney and Sesame Street and shit. Because, like, you didn't pick up the fundamentals. You know, you got to learn how to tie your shoes first. You know what I'm saying? But like, no, you just don't do the things that you don't want to do. It's very simple. It's very simple. And I don't know. I'm kind of hard on that stuff because we live in 2025 and you have the internet, so you can just really search and say, is anybody else doing this shit? And what does it look like? I was like, and then I think I talked about that in my last video. The funny thing about excuses is they all sound like good reasons. You know, the bad thing about them is none of them are going to get you to your goal. So you have to get past the excuses to get to the goal. You know? All right. So, in a nutshell, humanism is about exploring ethical living in a way that's grounded in reality and guided by both reason and compassion. All right. That's the thing. They're like twin, they're like twins. They're like wonder twins. Activate. Form of reason and empathy, compassion, caring about other folks. All right. So, the one big question that often comes up is where do we find meaning if we're not relying on supernatural beliefs? Which is a weird question, right? Because it's like, where do we find meaning if we don't rely on shit that's not true? Where do we find meaning if we don't find meaning in shit that we just made the fuck up? You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's weird. Like, I don't know. When I deconverted, there was just a lot of stuff that just sounded really weird to me. Like, I think I've told you, like, even when people come to me and ask me, what do I believe? I'm like, what do you believe now? Like, what do you mean? Can you complete that sentence first? Like, what do I believe about what? There's a lot of things in this world. Are you asking me what I believe about gravity? Are you asking me what I believe about God? Are you asking me, do I believe in God? I mean, the answer there is clearly no. I don't believe in any gods. I don't believe in anything supernatural, period. Um, at all. I don't. I mean, and number one, I have no reason to. And when I say reason to, I mean like there's no utility in me believing in something that I can't test. There's no utility in me believing in something that I can't manipulate. What the fuck? So I believe that there's a teapot around the moon. What does that belief do for me? What is the utility of that belief? Am I going to be comforted in teapots? I don't think so. I don't think so. So for humanists, meaning isn't something handed down from an external force. Instead, it emerges from the things we do and the relationships we build. Meaning is developed in our shared experiences. You know, our bonds with friends, family, and communities play a huge role in shaping our perception of purpose and the application thereof. Helping others, sharing love, and supporting causes that you believe in can give life depth and direction, you know? And whether it's art, science, or community activism, contributing something positive to the world can be deeply fulfilling. And it, kind of gives you that idea of creativity with that contribution, you know? And then, of course, personal growth is a major point of humanism. And, this is me. This is me. I'm going to talk my talk. That's honestly the biggest thing that's missing, in my opinion. And of course, I'm biased because 20 years as a pastor. So personal growth was the whole thing, But to me, that's honestly the biggest thing that the secular community is missing is an intentional focus on personal growth, personal development, personal self-improvement, you know? And it's odd to me that I don't want to say it's odd to me because it's clear to me why they don't. Because as of now, there's only one type of institution that focuses on personal growth. What is it? The church. Some people say, well, schools focus on personal growth. They do not focus on personal growth. No, they do not. Schools focus on academic growth and professional growth. Church is the only free institution that every week, by far and large, they're focused on personal growth, even though their personal growth is based in bullshit. I'll give you that. But that's the only institution. And because the secular community in most cases is against looking like the church, which is a very childish thing to be against, by the way. That's very shallow, incredibly shallow. But then that gives them less reason to interrogate the idea of personal growth, and I think that's even some of the other Sunday-centric communities. I hope they catch on quickly too, that's the missing ingredient, personal growth. I was training a group of people last year, or the year before last, for some community work that they were wanting to do. And the question came up to me is, if you're an atheist, why do you still work within like the church sphere and the church structure? And I said, it's partly because of the type of churches I was a part of, right? I was a part of the urban megachurch scene. And in spite of what you see on television, every single church that I was a part of did incredible things for the community. More things than any of the secular community has done, hands down. And this is why I tell the secular community, like, shut the fuck up about that stuff until you're actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, please stop that. You're like a child throwing a fucking tantrum. And if you got your way, it's not the preachers you're gonna hurt, it's the people at those churches. So please, let's get back to reason and critical thinking, and let's just stop doing this knee-jerk reactionary bullshit that just because everybody else saying it must be true. Half of the shit I hear the secular community say about the church is either outdated, as in that's how the church was maybe 50 years ago, or just flat out inaccurate. And I don't like that shit. But the reason, and this is what I showed them, I took them to one of these churches and let them see what these churches look like, what these people do. And in many cases, and I think some of y'all are familiar with the terminology love bomb. Oh man, the urban mega churches, they're going to love bomb the fuck out of you. As soon as you walk on their campus, there are people with big cards saying, we're so happy to see you. You know what I'm saying? They're everywhere. Moment you park, there's a parking attendant showing you where to go. They're not doing that to be big. They're doing that to ease people's anxiety. You know what I'm saying? Pull up. You've never been here before. Where do I park? I don't want to park. We got you. And everybody has the smiling faces, And then you're coming into the building. Everybody's waving and smiling. Everybody's hugging you. Everybody's telling you how much they love you, how awesome you are, how special you are. How glad they are that you've decided to grace them with your presence. Where else can people get that feeling? See, as a humanist, that's the shit I care about. It doesn't matter to me how many people believe in every scientific thing that comes out. As a humanist, what matters to me is how many people believe in themselves. You know what I'm saying? How many people feel okay in their own skin? And it is an absolute embarrassment that churches are doing better than us at this. Nobody should be treating people better than the humanists are. But for most of what I see in the secular community, it doesn't really come off as humanists. It's like we're just atheists. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. If that's all you are, that's cool. You have that right. But I'm looking for the humanists. You know, I want the atheists who are humanists. I want the agnostics who are humanists. I'll take a few believers who are humanists. You know what I'm saying? Because then we begin to understand that, oh, we need different conversations. If we're really trying to build community, you know what I'm saying? And I'm calling this out because what the last election, the reaction from the last election proved is that much of the community that exists in the secular community right now is fucking ornamental, not functional. If it was functional, thousands of people would not have been terrified after the election results. You see what I'm saying? The secular community right now reminds me of a lot of black families. We're related for no fucking reason. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing in our relationship that is mutual. There's nothing in our relationship that is mutually beneficial. There's nothing in our relationship that is creating functioning systems that can support people. That's fucking ornamental. It's not functional. You know? And I'm not into that. I'm not into that. Just doing shit just to do it? No. This shit needs to be tied to an outcome. I'm a pragmatist, unapologetically so. You know? And so that's why I still stick with the church structure, because I don't see anything in the secular community that's better than that. Almost every conversation that I've been in the secular community, almost every, not all, but almost every, is just people complaining about how bad their lives are. Who the fuck wants to join that club where everybody's crying and everybody's life is fucked up? Like, damn. That's what I mean when I say ornamental, not functional. Because if this was functional, we'd be able to platform some of these solutions. When people start, oh man, this is bad, we'd be able to say, but we have these solutions. And that's not what we're doing. It's like a depressing circle jerk. I don't want to be in a depressing circle jerk. That shit is depressing, obviously. You know what I'm saying? No. So humanism focuses. We can be focused on growth, connection, and contribution. Humanists believe that we can craft a life that feels meaningful without relying on supernatural guidance. You know? But maybe the problem is that we've become so individualized that we don't care about other people. You know? Like it seems like in many ways, I feel like some of us in the secular community haven't got what the point of organization is. Like you organize to do stuff, not to just exist, you know? And I mean, we can make a difference. We can, but we've got to be willing to do the work, you know? Speaking of which, let's deal with some of the challenges and criticisms of humanism, right? So of course, no worldview is perfect, none is without critique, and humanism has its fair share of challenges and criticism, some of which I've been kind of mentioning in this conversation. But the first one, which is the one that you get the most of, is the lack of spirituality. You know, some people argue that humanism neglects the spiritual or transcendent aspect of human experiences. Humanists, however, we say that wonder and awe can be found in nature, art, and human relationships. no supernatural elements needed. And just to be clear, at this moment, no supernatural elements exist that can be demonstrated. And again, if it can't be demonstrated, what is the utility of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it can't be measured, it can't be used. If it can't be measured, it can't impact anything. That's the thing. Like, people want to say God is the unmoved mover, but God, oh man, God can't. If God can't be measured, God can't move. You see what I'm saying? He can't move something if he can't even be measured. If he could move something, we could measure the movement. You see, you just got to think that shit through. But this one, I put this in the same category as that higher power bullshit. You're just using a phrase and you don't know what the fuck it means. And so you could ultimately say, people argue that humanism neglects question mark, question mark, question mark. Because when you actually hold a person down, okay, so let's define this. What is the spiritual or the transcendent that humanism is neglecting? And they're either going to stumble over their words and not land on something, or they're going to describe something that is 100% natural, materialistic, and it's experienced in the real world, meaning there's no need for supernatural inferences or implications whatsoever. As I've stated on this channel several times, I've not heard one example of a spiritual experience that wasn't a natural phenomenon. Not one. And again, if you are experiencing it, it's natural because you're natural. Man, it's amazing to me how many Americans don't know what words mean. Like, about to make some people mad when people say stuff like, oh, this food is natural and this food is not natural. Motherfucker, it's all natural. It's all nature. Stop playing these fugazi games. Like, please get up from the children's table. Who bewitched you, man? That's not how words work. You got a whole bunch of people like making buku dollars just by adding the words natural and organic to shit. It's amazing to me. It's amazing. Ooh, that reminds me of an old gospel song. It's amazing to me, all the things that you do for me, and I never see your face. Oh, damn, I ain't heard that song in a long time. It would satisfy my curiosity. Can't get that note. I think that's by Melvin Williams. I'm going to look that up now. But just thinking about those lyrics, did you hear what those lyrics was? Damn, I forgot them already. But it's like, it would satisfy my curiosity if I could see your face. It's a gospel song. I've never seen. It's amazing to me, all the things you do for me, and yet I've never seen your face. You see? It's a lot of weird shit in gospel music, man. All right. So yeah, this idea, if I don't have a problem with the word spiritual. I don't have a problem with the word spirituality. I don't have a problem with the word spirit. The word spirit we already use in everyday vernacular without a need to appeal to supernatural. Again, we say team spirit, work spirit, school spirit, spirit of liberty, spirit of France, whatever the fuck. We understand that spirit in those contexts is 100% a sociological construct. What I'm trying to get us to understand is that spirituality in all context is a sociological construct. And so in that case, with that being said, I don't mind using the word spirituality because I can define it. I can describe it. I have an understanding of it. I don't use the word often because most people do not. And it would be at this moment, I feel like if I leaned into that word a little too much, people would use that as license to kind of be like, yeah, this ain't woo. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You're not going to use me for that. I am a very spiritual person. And when I say I'm a spiritual person, I mean, I am highly empathetic towards other people. I absolutely enjoy connecting to other people. I enjoy exploring my own emotions and myself. I enjoy connecting to the world around me. In that sense, I consider myself spiritual. I have tons of spiritual experiences. This right now is a spiritual experience for me. Ha da da da. You know, whatever the fuck. All right, so I don't have a problem with it. I'm actually in the book that I'm working on called Case for Religion. Again, that one won't be coming out for a while. That's a big book. I'll be spending quite a few chapters talking about contemporary spirituality or secular spirituality, and even talking about how the concept of spirituality kind of evolves. And at the end of the day, it's for lack of better words, what we call spirituality is ultimately like an emergent property. I think that's the best way that I can say that, But you have to read the book for that one. All right. So the other thing, another challenge and criticism that humanism gets, and this one I think is almost square on, right? Lack of spirituality. That one's just bullshit. That's like saying lack of question mark, question mark, question mark. You know. And for those of you who have conversations with people like this, anytime somebody's trying to talk to you about spirituality, God, or a higher power, force them to define it before you continue the conversation. If they can't define it, don't continue the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, that's academically ethical. You know what I'm saying? To say, hey, before I engage this conversation with you, define what the fuck you mean, and then we'll continue. If I don't do that, I'm giving you license to not know what the fuck you're talking about and continue to pretend like you do. So when you see me on the call-in shows, that's always my strategy. you know you know but that's just the route. My y'all hear me say it all the time. My version of intelligence is not what you know, it's knowing what you don't know. you know and when you know what you don't know, you also know what other people might not know either. Especially when you know what you do know. It works. Okay. So, but individual responsibility versus social complexity, right? So humanism often emphasizes personal responsibility. Critics say that this might overlook the larger social, economic, and political structures that influence people's lives. Most contemporary humanists acknowledge these factors, arguing that we need both personal responsibility and social reform to address major issues. And I just want to say, no fucking duh. And that's why, this is why I don't deal with critics a lot, unless they're like, if you're not contributing, I don't care about your critique. Point blank, period. So I don't deal with critics a lot because, listen, humanism emphasizes personal responsibility. That is a complete sentence. Critics say, well, this might overlook the larger. No. That's a jump. That's called a slippery slope. That is fallacious. You see what I'm saying? You can call that shit out easily. You say, I'm emphasizing personal responsibility. Oh, well, that's going to overlook this. That is a slippery slope. That sentence did not say humanists emphasize personal responsibility over social problems. No. But so many people have those knee-jerk reactions because I've experienced this in some of my lives, because as a humanist, yes, I do emphasize personal responsibility. I damn sure preach the gospel of responsibility. And I preach it because it changed my fucking life. You know what I'm saying? That shit changed my life. Finding out that I could do things to impact my life, realizing that I had a greater control over my life than any imaginary friend, that shit changed my life. And if you care about people, you tell them how powerful they are. If you care about people, you tell them what they're capable of. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to ignore social complexity to do that, but you're damn sure not going to change the social complexity by having people not believing in their own fucking capacity. You need fucking soldiers. And the only way you're going to get them is to encourage them and to let them know that they're capable. Like, damn, y'all spend so much time on coddling people, making them weak. Grow the fuck up. As a species, we have survived the imaginable, the unimaginable. We need to learn how to revel in that a little bit. Humanity is fucking beautiful, amazing, powerful. Shame on anybody who's trying to rob somebody of that. And this is a conversation I've had in my Sunday sessions. because I encourage personal responsibility. And so they say, well, that sounds too much like you pulling yourself up by your own bootstrap. So the fuck what? I don't respond to dog whistle politics. That shit don't mean nothing to me. Because you want to know the fucking truth? I did. I shouldn't have had to, but I did. Pulled myself up by my own fucking bootstraps because America does not exist for me. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that I did means that it's possible. Because I'm not the only one who has. You know? But no, encouraging and emphasizing personal responsibility in no way nullifies the reality that there is social complexity and that there needs to be systemic change. But in order to get that systemic change, you're going to need more people who are taking personal responsibility to be a part of the change. Like, damn, it's basic math. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm a fucking coach. This is what I do. You know? Get your head in the fucking game. Get your head out the clouds and get your head in the game. You know? Get the molasses out your asses. That's what they used to say in the South. You know? You shouldn't have molasses in your ass. I mean, I don't know what you do in your private time, but I'm pretty sure that's not copacetic, not kosher. Don't do that shit. I mean, it's your prerogative. You know, damn, I wanted to throw another song title in there, but I couldn't. All right. So ultimately, and the other one, evolving philosophy. Humanism adopts to new information and changing societal norms, which can make it feel less definitive than more dogmatic belief systems. And that's the fucking point: is to not have to define what we don't have the definition for yet. You know what I'm saying? That's the point. That's the point. Like when believers come to me and say whatever their mumbo jumbo, I often remind them, no, I don't have to pretend anymore. It's like, well, how do you explain this? I don't have to pretend to explain that I know that. No, I'm not you. I am honest. That's why I stopped being a believer, because in order to be a believer, you have to be a liar. I don't like being a liar. Yeah. Believers lie all the time. Every time they say, I know for a fact God is real, that's a fucking lie. And they know it's a lie. Every time they say God spoke to me, that's a lie. And they know it's a lie. They lie all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? You might want to go check their taxes. Uncle Sam, tell him. Oh, and that's Sam. He's in a new movie. War, whatever, Captain America, Brave New World type thing. His name is Sam. He's Uncle Sam. You get it? All right. So now let's look forward. How can humanism help shape our future? Which I've shared a little bit about this, so I won't go into too much detail here, but I'll just hit some hot points. The first one is global challenges, right? Issues like climate change, inequality, and political unrest require solutions rooted in reason, evidence, and compassion. You know, a lot of I'm not even go there. Humanism encourages us to take these problems, to tackle these problems collectively, using science and ethical decision making. Also, humanism helps with building a more just society. That's my hypothesis. You know, by prioritizing empathy and responsibility, humanism pushes for social and economic structures that respect human dignity, protect human rights, and promote well-being. From AI ethics to bioengineering, new technologies raise crucial moral questions. A humanist approach emphasizes careful thought, transparency, and human-focused problem solving, which actually just that first one, careful thought, that's really like the defining characteristic. Because in order to be a believer, then you don't use careful thought with your morals or your ethics. Ain't no thought for you. It's the Bible says it. That settles it. God said it. I believe it. You know? It's not a great way to interact with the world around you. The promise of humanism is that we, as a global community, can work together to create a brighter, more compassionate future. Now, to really close this out, because I have to hit this, because people say, man, you atheist, man, atheism is a religion. Atheism is not a religion. Atheism is simply a state of being that you don't believe in a particular thing. That's all it is. However, humanism actually serves as a religion. So, um, while much of humanism is secular, which means rejecting all supernatural claims, there also is a branch known as religious humanism. You know, humanism is recognized as a religion in the United States, and I believe in the UK too. Religious humanists often meet in communities, draw upon shared rituals or traditions, and focus on ethical living and communal support, much like religious congregations. However, they do so without centering on a supernatural deity or sacred text as ultimate authorities. Instead, religious humanists emphasize human experiences, scientific understanding, and collective well being as foundations for moral reflection and communal celebration. Thus, for some practitioners, humanism functions very similarly. It functions just as a religion, offering fellowship, shared values, and a sense of purpose while remaining firmly grounded in naturalistic worldview. And there are humanist churches all over the United States, humanist churches all over the world, actually. You know, they may not be as great in number, but I promise you, many of you probably live in a city that has a humanist church. Most UU churches are humanist, uh, and they're cool, I guess. My thing with UU churches, and mind you, I'm a millennial, so, you know, my thing with UU churches, other than the fact that there's not many black folk there, but I, okay, I'm going to give them some grace here because I don't think it's actually their fault that, or not their fault. Yeah, I don't think it's actually their fault that there's not that many black people in UU. I think their aesthetic is not attractive to black folk from a cultural perspective. Like UU churches look like what I imagine churches look like in the 1600s, and they seem like they still be singing out of the old hymnal books. And I'm like, why are y'all doing that? And then like their churches still look like the old churches. And you know, as a millennial, like I'm like, why are y'all doing that? Because again, I worked in the urban mega churches spaces. Our spaces look like concert centers. We got gyms and rec rooms and our shit. We got computer labs. You know what I'm saying? So I've never been like attracted to like the pipe organ type of churches, you know. And I mean they're beautiful, but it just feels like a museum. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, it's just not really attractive, you know. Um, this is what, and I think this is part of what the secular community has missed out on, with the way that the church has pivoted in the past 50 years. Because again, most churches are pretty much just self-help centers, with Jesus squeezed in by necessity. You know, if the members of those churches, in many cases, ever went to their pastor and said, you know what, we tired of hearing about Jesus. Can you just preach about finances and getting in health and getting better and like that? That motherfucker be relieved. You know how hard it is to preach from the same damn book year after year after year after year after year after year. It's torture. But yes, many churches, many American churches, about 50 years ago, started pivoting away from the temple look. You know, which is what a lot of UU churches seem to be leaning into, and I guess that's a part of that that cultural aesthetic, right? Because that is a very European look, um, African churches with no damn pipe organs and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's a very European type of aesthetic, and from what I've seen, the UUs tend to be in the older ages. Their congregations tend to be older, and so it seems to me that it's just an appeal to the childhood. It's like I got an uncle who still watches he loves westerns and stuff, and I realized one day that he watches those westerns because this is what he was watching when he was a kid with his family and stuff like that. And so there's like a nostalgia aspect to it. But I'm not a fan of that because that's not progressive, you know. And so I think that's why UUs are not attracting as many black folk and young folk, because they are tying themselves to an antiquated aesthetic that, sure, it meets the desires of the members you have now, but coming from a church background, if your community is just filled with old people, your community is walking the green mile. You dead man walking. You know what I'm saying? So it would behoove you, I mean, to think about that, you know. Um, I don't know, but I'm kind of missional in my approach. So I'm always thinking like, how can we be better? How can we improve? How can we go further? How can we reach more people? Like I'm missional in that sense. Um, a lot of churches, and again, that's a pivot. That's a recent pivot because many churches were not missional 50 plus years. They were congregational, which means this building exists solely for our congregation and people who join this congregation. And it speaks to our history, and we got a long line of uh, priests and pimps and pastors or whatever, you know what I'm saying, that have done their thing. It's congregational. Missional churches, which is what we started seeing about 50, 60 years ago, they don't care about any of that shit. No, missional churches were killing sacred cows left and right, slaughtering them motherfuckers, all in an attempt to remain relevant in a contemporary society. And again, this is how you get your Stephen Furticks, your Michael Todds, your Bishop Jakes, your Creflo Dollars. This is how you get these folk. They shifted from church as a temple to church as a community center. And that's what they started building. So then around 50, 60 years ago, churches started building more and more rec centers that the community could use. One of my mentors, former mentors in Ohio, his church had a skating rink for the members that members could use. They could throw their parties there free. You want to say free of charge, but they paid for it, so that it was theirs, as members of this church. This belongs to you. So they had a skating rink, they had a soccer field, they had a K through 12 school, they had several restaurants that created jobs for people that were in their community. They did those things, and then every year they did big food giveaways, big gas giveaways, and then every year they'd give away 2 houses and 4 cars to people in their church every year, And this is the reason why I don't jump on everybody else's bandwagon of just condemning the church, because I'm like, half the people who are saying shit don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You're appealing to your own availability heuristic. You know what I'm saying? You're appealing to your own biases. You say, anytime you're talking about a whole group and your evidence is, I know somebody who did this, you're not using critical thinking skills. You're leaning into a fallacy. And much of what I hear the secular community saying about churches is highly fallacious. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because you're not going to win those Christians over if your information is inaccurate. You know what I'm saying? And stop getting your fucking information from memes. Stop that shit. Damn, y'all. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, I'm sorry. So there you have it. The humanist approach to life's big question in a nutshell. Humanism is about relying on our collective reason, empathy, and responsibility to find meaning and solve problems. It encourages personal growth, fosters deep human connections, and calls us to contribute to society in positive ways. That's humanism. Am I an atheist? Yes. Am I a humanist? Yes. Is Bridge City an atheistic organization in the sense that Bridge City has no gods? Absolutely. But what leads Bridge City, what propels us, what pushes us, what compels us is humanism. We exist to be a better way to connect, to build community beyond superstition, and to champion what we call our difference, to be progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming. Listen, I hope you've gotten some value out of this conversation today. And if you have, let me know in the comments. Y'all know I read them. Y'all know I respond. I'll be a few days behind, but life is lifing. Right now, I work about 15 to 16 hours daily, every day, Monday through Sunday, to keep everything going. But that's not a flex. No, don't give me any empathy. Don't cry for me, Argentina. You know what I'm saying? That's the cost. That's the cost. You know what I'm saying? Hui, I set myself on fire and everybody else gets to come and watch me burn. But I love y'all. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Um, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider supporting, joining, or connecting with this community, channel, or content in any way that makes sense for you. And then share this video with somebody who you think will get something out of this conversation. And then, of course, check out our merch. That's the easiest way to support us right now with you getting something in return. You can check out our merch. We got dope hoodies, shirts, hats. Actually, I got a hoodie that's on the way so soon, and I can't help, even though I ordered it like almost 2 months ago, but it's on the way. Y'all get y'all stuff faster than I get my stuff. Every time I order it, it takes a long time. But yes, check out the merch and check out our books. Remember, we're planning on coming to Raleigh in April. So if you're in the Raleigh area, please let us know in the comments. If you want to help out, let us know. And make sure you join our Discord, which that link is in the chat as well. And if you want to support the Raleigh event financially, you can do so one of two ways. You can go on our merch site and buy the shirt that says Happy Little Accidents, or the shirt that says Bridge City, or the shirt that just has our Bridge City logo and Raleigh on it. All purchases of those particular items the proceeds from that are going to the Raleigh event. Or you can go to our crowdfunding link, which I also have in the description below. Looking forward to seeing you all. And even if you're not in Raleigh, let us know where you're watching from, because that's how we pick where we're going. All right. I love y'all. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive. And if you can, stay beautiful, motherfucker. I'll holla.